Hello, everyone. We'll get to see familiar faces and familiar names where I don't see the faces. This is the last ATO of 2025. We got through an entire year and every room in the house at this point, or for some of us, we may have been stuck on certain rooms, and that is okay too. So the final month of the year is technically maintenance, but I'm happy to talk about anything in any room of the house that's of any interest to folks, since this is the last session of the year. Just as a heads up, for 2026, it is likely that we will change the day, but not the time of the ATOs, just so that all of our team members are able to participate. We have some scheduling conflicts. So it will be the same time, but it will either be the first Wednesday or the first Thursday of every month. And I hope that that will still work for y'all. But as a reminder, we always have these recorded and they're always available after the fact should you need them. All right. So jumping in, we have gone room by room throughout the year and we've talked about all kinds of different ways to organize different spaces. And it's actually been really fun to hear your ideas in different spaces in your house. And I think it's important to note that, through the course of this year, with all of the different rooms we've tackled, a lot of you have given really great ideas that some of us never thought of. So shout out to all of you and thank you for sharing your tips. I think for today, since it's the last one of the year and we do have kind of a smaller group, I want to open it up to questions first and see if there's any particular area in the house that people have trouble maintaining. So, we've done our work towards organizing the kitchen or the garage or whatever the room may be. And then sometimes we find ourselves backsliding in certain areas more than others. Like a lot of people, especially houses with kids, in the entryway. The drop zone, things come in and they land, and you can't seem to find a way to keep them organized. So first, just want to check in and see if there is anyone out there who has a question or needs any tips on anything in particular. And it could be resources as well, really anything.
Well, this is Connie. I have one.
Hi, Connie. How are you?
Hi, pretty good, thanks. How was your Thanksgiving? Oh,
Super. Still putting away the dishes.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know if my video is on or not.
It is.
Okay. Um, we talked early in the year about paper filing and electronic storage. And, things change so rapidly in that area. So I was curious if you've gotten any new resources, any other ideas, or learned anything new in that area, because I'm still surrounded by paper, paper, paper.
As far as what to keep or how to keep it.
Well, yeah, I've got your list, and that's been always very helpful. In fact, I have it by my computer so that I look at it. But I just, in general, ideas of how to organize, or I'm not sure. I just still feel like I don't have a handle on that.
On paper. Yeah, paper
Yeah,
is a problem.
electronic storage and regular storage. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it kind of depends what kind of paper you're keeping. So, in surprise to no one, I have virtually no paper. It makes me crazy. I don't like it, and I will be honest, like it's not fun for me. There are organizers on our team who enjoy it. I am admittedly not one of them, so I feel your pain. I really do. Like it's not fun. I don't want to do it. However, reducing number one, reducing the amount that's coming in is the first step to getting a handle on it. So whether that means doing the do not mail list to get off the junk mail list and reduce what's coming in, or bookmarking more website pages instead of printing out the recipe or whatever it is that you're looking to reference later. Step one, I think, really is just trying to stop the influx of what's coming in. It's very hard to get caught up on a backlog of filing and paperwork without slowing down what's coming in, because then it just keeps piling and piling and piling. The guidelines of what to save have not really changed. And I think a big part of it is your comfort level with storing things online, having online backups and things like that. I personally, the only things I have that are paper that I have retained are birth certificates and death certificates, outside of your normal identification. Um, Land deeds, titles, like, I mean, your obvious things you do have to keep, and generally you want to have a hard copy, your original. But outside of that, I feel like everything really can be either digitized or there is a digital version of it somewhere where you don't need the piece of paper. So my suggestion is always going to be to try to get down what you're saving. So Connie, if you want to tell me something specifically, like a category of things that you're saving, I could give you more direct advice. But for me, it's always like just stop printing, go paperless, get on the do not mail list. And it makes it really easy for me because I get maybe two pieces of mail a day. One of them are junk, even though I'm on the do not mail list, and I put it right in the recycling the second that it comes in. I don't even let it get to my desk.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we have a mailroom, so it doesn't leave the mailroom if it's not important. One
Mhm.
thing I have tried, and I'm in transition, so it's challenging, is that, like, if I get an email and I need to follow up, or I'm waiting for them to respond, or I need to do something, I used to print them out, and then that was my to-do list. And I've now created a pending spot, so I'm moving them over there.
Mhm.
And then I have to put a note on my calendar to remind me to go look at it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, honestly, whatever works though,
well,
I think you're still doing better. You've made a significant improvement in your own process, right? Instead of wasting the paper and the time and then
right,
having this thing that you have to keep and put somewhere, you have a folder that you don't have to see and ever think about again unless you schedule yourself a reminder to check it.
right, right.
In, Gmail and most email, you can pin folders to the top. So you could put your pending folder at the very top of all of your save folders. So it's always top of mind, so to speak.
Uh,
But certainly reminders, not just with going back to your pending email folder, but for everything. Like I have to put it on my calendar to clean a room or organize something, like literally anything that has to get done outside of like basic everyday life, I have to schedule for myself.
that,
And I think it's the same for a lot of people. You can also, and this is more for just generally everyone than just you, Connie, but also, having a pending, you can have, there is someone on our team who has a few folders that are genius to me. There's, you know, keep for future reference, waiting for somebody else, action needed. So I need to do something, or I'm waiting for somebody else to do something, or I might just need this one day. And then you don't wind up clouding your folder of things you actually need to do with things other people need to do. And they're like, where did I leave off with this? You just know that it's the ball is in somebody else's court. And you don't have to look at it until they're late, right?
right. Okay, those are good. That's good. Okay, thank you.
For sure. And then for everyone else, I know I've said it throughout the year, but we always have different folks in different sessions. I will still, for the rest of my life, swear by the 3-tier paper organizer, because it really gives you a very limited amount of space for how much you can build up and fall behind on your incoming paper and things that you're printing. So the system is as simple as everything on the very top is stuff that just came in that you haven't looked at yet. You need to look at, open, do something, recycle. The center layer, something that needs action. So if it's an invite and you need to RSVP for a party, or it's a bill that you have to pay. And then the bottom is things that you have already looked at. There is no action needed. It just needs to be scanned into the computer or filed. Going back a little bit, I'm always going to suggest scanning into the computer instead of keeping the paper files. Those paper files accumulate over time, and I don't personally feel that anybody that doesn't have like a business or a bunch of trusts that they're managing or anything like that, like if you have more than one filing cabinet and you're not doing those things, you might have too much paper. And at one point, I think we look at it and like, I haven't touched these papers in this long. And then we realize it, but starting today, having less coming in is certainly going to make it easier. And I think that the majority of humans have paper problems. It's not unique to me or to Connie or to anyone.
Thanks for reminding me about the scanning part. I forgot about that part.
Yep. And
Thank you.
there's free apps on your phone too. So you don't have to even have a scanner. You can just use a free app. You take a picture on your phone and you can connect it to your Google Drive, which is what I happen to use. So I have Tiny Scanner is the app that I use. I'm an Android person. It just takes a picture, converts it to a PDF, and I save it right to my Google Drive, right into the folder where it belongs, and then never have to open it again. I see some new people have popped in. So just to loop everybody in, we are talking about maintenance after the other 11 months of the year, going room by room and talking about different ways to organize our spaces. And we're doing a little bit of a free for all today. I do have general maintenance tips that I could run through like a robot, but I would much rather hear where y'all are struggling and answer specific questions and provide resources if anybody needs them. So far, we've just talked about paper, which is a problem that most people have. Does anybody else have any questions or rooms or areas where they need tips?
Old stuff in cupboards, please.
Old
Food,
stuff in cupboards for
bathroom
$5.
cupboards. How do you even remember that stuff's there?
The kitchen cupboards, because you dig in there. You got to go in there and look. I know it's a crazy concept. You just have to pull it all out and make a mess. And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't like or don't want to deal with. I have to pull everything out and look through it and make decisions. And you have to make a mess before it gets better, though. And anybody who has worked with us has seen us make a mess. We make a mess, and you're like, oh, that is a mess. And then half an hour later, you come back, you're like, what happened to the mess? This looks great. So there is a reward at the end of it. I know it's not fun. It's especially not fun when it's your own stuff. I talked about this one annoying cabinet in my kitchen that I took, I don't know, 6 or 7 months to finally organize. So organizers procrastinate as well. But if you have a kitchen full of cupboards and you've had things in them for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, folks have lived in their house. We've had clients who lived in their house for 60 years, things get pushed to the back and they are never to be seen again. It can seem overwhelming, I would imagine, to be like, I can't go through this whole kitchen and deal with this. So the suggestion would be, I think mentally people have their own preference. I like to do the hardest one first and the easiest one last. Some people like to start with the low hanging fruit, feel the reward of getting a little bit done and then gaining momentum and going on that way. That is a preference for sure. Either way, you could simply just put it on your calendar one day a month, the first Sunday of every month. I'm going to do one cabinet, one kitchen cabinet. And it may take all year, but it doesn't matter, right? Because the things have been sitting there for so many years at this point with no progress that even if you get yourself to do one or two cabinets, you've done one or two cabinets. And I think once you start pulling stuff out and realize you haven't used it in how long, you probably don't need it. There's probably somebody out in the world who could use that item more than you. And then, yeah, you start your donation box. You could keep even a running box. Like if you're going to do it slowly, like you could do one a week if you had the time or motivation. I just say once a month because I don't like to give overwhelming homework to folks. So I always say like start with a little. And if, that feels good, you can always add to it. But you could keep a box, like a medium-sized box, you know, in a closet, in the garage, somewhere out of your way. And every time you do a cabinet, just drop something in. And that kind of applies to any room in the house. I would like to suggest folks generally do that, even if it's a paper shopping bag, depending what your thing is. If your thing is paper, have a paper shopping bag out and set a goal to once a week fill that bag with stuff that could be recycled and then get it out. If your thing is clothing, set a paper bag for once every 2 weeks to fill it up and donate it to Goodwill or whatever the case may be. That was a long ramble, but hopefully it was helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. Anybody else need an idea or a motivation or have a particular spot in the house that's hard to maintain?
I don't want to be piggy, but I have another. Oh, Jill, you go.
I just came in. I don't have a voice. What was the question?
Hi, Jim. Welcome. Sorry you don't have a voice. We're talking about maintenance and basically just like general areas in the house that are hard to maintain throughout the year. You know, we have all done a lot of work throughout the year in different rooms, and we're just talking about the specific pain points and kind of free for all for the last one of the year and seeing just if anybody needs resources or tips on a specific area. We talked about people a bit, and then we talked about kitchen cupboards a little bit. You know, and on the flip side with the kitchen cupboard, you could also theoretically get to the back of a really deep cabinet and be like, oh, I forgot I had this. This is the most amazing thing I have ever found in my own home. And then you get that joy of like finding something new that you were in. So the question was, anybody else looking for tips, or does anybody else have a specific area in the house that's harder than others to maintain or keep tidy?
Friend and I gave each other a challenge of clearing one table a day or one surface a day. And she's been taking pictures. She's ahead of me. She's been taking pictures and sending them.
I like it. And that's actually a nice note too. Taking pictures can really be motivating. So if you take a picture before you clean out this kitchen cupboard, and then you take a picture of the big mess all over the counter or the floor or wherever it happens to land, and then you get all of your stuff done, you take a picture at the end and see how far you came with just one cabinet. It's really motivating. You know, once you get a little bit done, it doesn't feel quite as hard. So Jill actually hit on a couple of the tips that we would normally discuss in a maintenance type session. So taking pictures, motivating and helpful. Having an accountability buddy is also incredibly helpful. So my thing is laundry. I will wash it, but I don't want to put it away ever. So I'll call one of my best friends and chat with them, and most of them have something that they don't want to be doing at the same time. We'll just do it together while we're talking and passing the time, and it makes it not so terrible of a task. And if you're looking, even if, let's say you have a friend challenge, right? And the challenge is for everybody to clear off one surface per week. We can apply a few rules. One, if it takes 10 seconds or less to put it where it goes, just put it where it goes. And then also not wasting trips. So if you're going upstairs and there's something on that table that needs to go upstairs, take it with you. And then in, you know, more so probably homes with children or more people living in the household, this would come into play, but you could also have a basket that's like an upstairs, downstairs basket. It sits by the stairs, and when you go up, you fill it with all the things that are downstairs and bring them all upstairs and put them away. And then when you go on your next trip downstairs, you fill it with the things that belong downstairs, and maybe you're not so motivated to put it all away on the same day, but at least things are getting back to the area that they belong in their home. So You could also set a timer. The accountability buddy, I think, is a big one. Having a friend even to talk to while you're doing it, or having a challenge with friends really, really helps. But do you also schedule time on your calendar, like we talked about? So you may want to once a month make sure that your paper tray has been cleared out, or once a month make sure that the dining room table hasn't accumulated a pile of stuff, or whatever the case may be in your house. And then set a timer when that once a month comes. Give yourself a timer and challenge yourself of like, I'm going to clear this whole table in 25 minutes or less. Maybe you do and maybe you don't, but it's at least motivating and has you moving a little bit faster, trying to get towards your goal. And getting one thing put away is always going to be better than getting no things put away, right? So if you set a timer for 20 minutes and you start organizing things for 5, good for you. You did 5 minutes of organizing that you would not have done if you didn't put it on the calendar and didn't set yourself a timer, right? Let me think if there's anything else. Body doubling. And then, yeah, seasonal resets also. So I know there are folks who will change their bedding with every season, or just winter to spring, things like that. It's a good time as you have everything out at the same time to look and see if there's anything that you want to replace, or if there is anything that you just don't even need anymore. What else?
I, that I was cleaning out my closet because it's not big enough for all the seasons of clothing.
Mhm.
And I ended up with a pile of donations. I went, I never wear this. So the seasonal switch is really beneficial in
Mhm.
clothing. And I know there are places that could really benefit from those items.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you might be doing your switch, you know, at the end of fall and it's the beginning of winter, and you're putting the winter stuff in its place and you're like, I don't even like this anymore. It's the beginning of winter and it's a coat you don't like that somebody could probably really use somewhere. So that's, it's a really good consideration. Y'all know I'm also a big proponent of flipping hangers. So if you flip your hangers backwards at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season, and those hangers are still backwards, you are not wearing those items. And unless it's like a very expensive evening gown that you keep just for future fancy events, that's fine. But your everyday stuff, if you haven't worn it for a season, it's probably not going to get worn again. So that's also why I think like always having that box or that bag prepared to accept donations keeps it more top of mind. Like, do I really need this? Sometimes it goes right in the bag and you don't even have to think about it again. All right, what else are folks having trouble with? This is all your time, so please do not feel greedy. If you have 75 questions, use it to your advantage.
If it's easier for folks to get rid of clothes because they're giving it to a cause, I will say there's a clothing swap, a winter clothing swap happening at St. John's on Saturday at Wonderwood Springs. I plan on being up there, and hopefully I will take more clothes than I come home with.
Yeah, good. That's a great idea, especially, women, unfortunately, we change sizes at different points in life. And if you can swap out stuff for things that are going to fit you better where you are at that stage, then amazing. If you can just go donate and not bring anything home, even more amazing. And there are other clothing swaps around. I know the one in St. John's, they do more than once a year, I believe, right?
I think this is the first one at that location at
Okay.
Wonderwood Springs.
Well, Wonderwood seems like it would be a fun place to have a swap. I believe there is another one that takes place in St. John's that's been happening for a couple of years. And then there's also the PNW's biggest clothing swap, which I go to. They do it twice a year. I tend to go at least once a year. I will bring 1 to 2 big IKEA bags full of clothes, typically. Don't judge me. And generally speaking, I will leave with a half a bag to a bag or less. So it's like, what am I wearing more now? You know, I'm not wearing dress pants anymore. I don't work in corporate America anymore, but I do need more black pants to go help folks organize their house. So I'll go give people their dress clothes and I will take my black pants and my leggings and be on my merry way. That clothing swap, I think the tickets are like $12 or something. And there are tables and tables and tables of items. They have um, a men's section. There's a whole floor that's general women's section. They also have a men's section. They have a non-binary section, and then they have a plus size section on a different floor. So there's really something for everyone. And when I tell you I have seen every age group there, I mean everyone from like adults, like from 18 to probably 70. I've seen everybody there. So I think, it's a good option for folks who have things that they want to let go of. All of the clothes that do not get taken during those swaps get donated to their charity choice of either the year or the event. I don't know if they do one per year or two per year, but it's usually like Dress for Success or Rose Haven or something like that. So anything left behind that is in good usable condition still also gets donated. What else are folks having trouble with at home? I know, everybody's life is not perfectly organized and peachy.
I'm having, there's a question in your chat box. I'm having trouble with mementos and collectibles that I inherited from my parents. Silver things and cut glass things that I sure as heck never use. And the nagging sense is that there must be some value and I need to find an avenue to mine the value instead of just dumping it on the curbside, because my mom in particular thought these were just the most fabulous collectibles, and now I'm stuck with them. So I'm sure there's a psychological workaround somehow, or I mean, I'm baggaged down with, do I have to go online and check a comparable and try and figure out how to sell it on eBay or whatever, because this is specialized silver that she bought in London in 1930 or whatever. Stuff like that, or cut glass, which I think you can't wish on anybody these days, but so.
Yeah. I mean, I do have my grandfather's cut glass ashtray, so I'm guilty there, but it's literally the one thing of his that I kept, and it's like the key tray. Um, but I get it, and this is a big one for a lot of people. For future reference, we do have an ATO, an Ask the Organizer on our YouTube that specifically addresses sentimental items from either last month or 2 months ago. There is also an accompanying blog. There is also a blog on Swedish death cleaning, which will touch on that as well. The practical suggestion is, especially if there are things like, if you could say I got stuck with it, then we know in your heart this is not something you love and you cannot let go of, right? You just don't want it to go to waste. And we feel the same way. So anybody who has worked with us knows that we will do everything in our power to keep something out of a landfill. We will find a home if there is a home. With things that might or might not have value or might not have interest to a collector, I always suggest people use Google Lens. And if you're not familiar with it, I'll give an overview. You can Google Lens if this doesn't give you enough information. But when you open a Google browser, you have your little incognito window at the top right, and then there's another little icon that looks like a camera, and that is Google Lens. If you open Google Lens and you take a picture of an item, it will take that picture and search the internet for similar items. So it's very helpful. I use it all the time when I'm working with clients to determine if this thing that we're looking at has any value or not. And sometimes it's like, okay, this plate has a $10 value, but I have 10 of them. And then you get to the point, well, how long would it take me to photograph them all properly, list them on eBay, sell them for $10 each, pack them, ship them, and get them to the person who wants them? So Google Lens is kind of like the starting point, right? It gives you an idea of what you're looking at. It's either super valuable or not. right? You know, there could be a middle ground and then there are decisions to make, but in my experience, it's either not super valuable or it is. And I think once you have that baseline, it's a lot easier to figure out where to go from there. If it's something that's $10, probably not worth the time. If you scan a piece of china and this one dish is $35 and you have a set, then it is certainly worth exploring the value of the entire set. And everybody's obviously always welcome to reach out to us if you ever need resources. We do have folks for everything. We have china people, like you name it, we can find somebody. Antique books, all of it, art, sculptures, you got it. But I do think Google Lens is a very helpful tool, especially when the sentimental items aren't super sentimental. When they're super sentimental, then you're dealing with a completely different issue. It has nothing to do with the value. It has to do with the emotional value, how much you love it, what it means to you, the story behind it. And folks who know me in this group know that, like with greeting cards, I take pictures of every greeting card I ever get in my entire life, and I have them in a folder on my computer. So I take the picture on my phone, and then every once in a while, I dump that folder into the computer. And then one day when I'm rocking somewhere in a nursing home or something, I will look through that folder and remember all the people that loved me throughout my life, and it'll be wonderful. That is what I tell myself. But I do the same things with, you know, other pieces of memorabilia that were special and they have a unique memory to them, but I don't necessarily have to have the thing and hold it. So I also have an album just of pictures of like cool stuff I've had over the course of the years. And now somebody who uses it and appreciates it, they can use it now. So really,
Yes.
it depends on whether it's emotional or financial, how you address it, but there's a way to get through it all. We have to, more than anything, learn to let go of the guilt that like it is our responsibility to keep these things forever because it was a gift or because it was my mother's. It's stuff. You know, there's no piece of plastic or ceramic that you could donate that is going to replace the memory of your mother, right? So if you try to just shift your way of thinking from the thing to the memory is never going to leave you, especially if you take a picture. You always have a picture of that item.
Jess, have you ever used the Assistance League of Greater Portland out in Beaverton?
We have, yes.
That was helpful because that, I don't know why, but it helped get rid of that tie, the emotional tie. Because when they saw it, they valued it too. And so it made it feel like my value counted. You know, and they were going to take good care of it rather than just, you know, dropping
Yeah.
it off. But I thought
That's
they
a
were very
big part of it. Yeah, knowing that it's going to live on somewhere else. So for me, I did my big right sizing before I moved to Portland, probably about 10 years ago. And my biggest stuff was like different type of music memorabilia, like really expensive collectors Grateful Dead cookie jars and like special edition box sets of my favorite bands and exclusive numbered posters that were framed and all kinds of music stuff. And I did the same thing, like, what is this worth? And I didn't have Google Lens there, so I had to actually really do the hard work of figuring out what things were worth. And I just kind of set a bar for myself. I was like, anything that's not worth $200 or more is just getting given to a friend or donated. And I wound up giving all of it to friends who to this day, a decade later, are still enjoying them. I had my decade with them. I had my fun. I enjoyed them. Now they're living a happy life somewhere else. And it does help knowing that something's not going into the dump. So that's why I always tell y'all, if you ever need a resource, I may not always have the answer. And some things sometimes do have to go to the dump, but I will always try my hardest to make sure I find you a home for your thing.
I did have an interesting discovery recently. I had some photos and some small furniture items. None of my siblings wanted it. My cousin did. And, you know, I wouldn't have normally thought about that, but I learned that from my mom. She started with her siblings and then her children and then expanded it out. And I was surprised at which cousin or which, you know, niece or nephew really had an interest in it. And I would have never thought about that. So just expanding that, what's family, really made a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I had more friends than family with interest in what I had to get rid of, right? But when we do an estate clean out, I generally suggest to folks that have some family interest in different items, we photograph everything, that's being let go of, everything that's going to be leaving the house. We put it into a Google album. And then the person can share that one link with the whole entire family. And depending on how many people that is, you might have to make a spreadsheet or it might have to have some different process alongside it. But if you're talking about a couple of siblings or a few aunts and uncles, just sending the link and starting an email thread of, hey, is anybody interested in this? You'll either find they are or they aren't. And then sometimes you could even have a family member who's like, I'm not, but I actually know somebody who collects that. And then your item has a home again. Sentimental items and gifts. I'm going to throw gifts in, even if they're not sentimental, because I know people have a really hard time letting go of gifts. All of us do. I do. Um, it feels wrong, right? Somebody took the time to go and get this for me. They put thought into it. It was clearly hand selected for me. Like they put thought, energy, time, money into getting this thing for me that I never, ever, ever, ever use. And then I have to flip it on myself and be like, okay, if you gave this gift to someone and it was perfect for them, but they still didn't use it, would you want them to carry the guilt of it for the rest of their life and have this thing in their closet forever because they're sad that you bought it and they don't use it? No, like I would want them to like give it to somebody who will use it. Spread the love, send it down the line. We get very attached to gifts and have this heavy guilt around it, which I don't think that's ever the gift giver's intention.
Thank you. That was a very useful framing of that. I was just struggling with that, in fact.
It's hard. It
Yeah.
is, and we're good people. We have good hearts. We want people to know that we appreciate the things that they do for us and the things that they buy for us. My only follow up to that is if you do have someone in your life who is extra thoughtful and keeps buying you stuff, that you keep having to get rid of, maybe have a gentle conversation like, I love you. And it's amazing that you think of me so often, but I don't have anywhere to put these things. I'm so sorry. And maybe try to slow it down because I do have friends that are that way. I don't know if everybody does, if it's common, but I have friends who, they'll actually do my Goodwill idea, but for people. So I have a friend specifically that will have one paper bag for each of her 2 to 3 really, really close friends in her closet all year long. And every time she sees something that makes her think of me, she buys it and drops it in the bag, buys it, drops it in the bag. The end of the year, she will individually wrap, even if it's a sticker, she will individually wrap every single thing that she put in that bag that she bought for me. Luckily for me, they're all consumable, useful things, and I don't have to worry about offloading them. But if you do have people in your life that keep giving you stuff that you just don't want or have the space for, be honest. It's the same thing as gift giving. People don't want to burden you. They don't think they're burdening you. That's never the intention, right?
I joked with my family, if I have to dust it, or if I can't consume it, I don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And they listen, they say, oh, God, they remember that. But the dust one, they always chuckle at, but it's true. If I have to dust it, I don't need it.
I mean, that should be like somebody's tagline. I think it's amazing. That's the perfect way, especially if the person giving you all the things has a sense of humor. Be like, look, if you're going to bring me something I have to dust, clean, or maintain, I'm not interested. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Special things that are troublesome or areas in the house, resources for places to send their things.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Nice to
Okay.
see you.
Just, it's more of a frustration. I don't know if there's a solution, but I can be a really good micro organizer, but on the macro, it's a mess. And like I cleaned out a drawer, my junk drawer in the kitchen, and I really felt good. Like, oh, I can put this here and I can put this, I really thought it through, but it doesn't take long before it's kind of messed up already. And I have to, if I'm going to go through my whole house, in the meantime, all these things that did are no longer valid. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where the maintenance comes in. So when we organize things, a kitchen cupboard is a kitchen cupboard, right? You
Mhm.
take all the Tupperware out, you find their matches, make sure everybody has a mom and a dad, and you put back in what you want to keep, toss what's not matched, and donate the rest.
Mhm.
When it comes to pretty much any other area of the house, it's a little more difficult than that, right? So if you're organizing a space and then you're not setting it up to where everything has a specific home, it's not going to do you much good, and you'll just have to kind of return that same space. Would you mind sharing what, like, let's just take your junk drawer, for instance, like what everybody's junk drawer is different, I assure you. You may all think that everybody has pens, pencils, and batteries. That's not true. But if you set the junk drawer up in a way that everything has a home, and if it doesn't have a home, it means it doesn't belong in that drawer. So what kind of stuff generally winds up there?
Well, that one has, let's see, gosh, incense holders, probably more than I need. And then I have like 3 or 4 thermometers to check the temperature of some food I've cooked. And I never quite understand any of them. So I think this one is, I don't get this, so I'll try not, so more than I need, but in case I could have, um, let's see what else. I've got pens and pencils and just other stuff. I'm not looking right at it, but
Do you have any type of organizing bins or anything in the
Yeah.
drawer?
I might get some more maybe. I'll look it over so I can get the right little thing. That
Yeah,
sounds
I think it's important to try to take mental note of what's reaccumulating. So let's say just that one drawer, you reorganize it, everything is great, and then a month later, there's 45 pens. Okay, so the pens are the issue, right? See if
Yeah.
there's a particular thing that's building up. And we were talking before we started the session a little bit. I know many of you have worked with us on a move in, move out type situations, different than home organizing sometimes. So if we do an unpack for somebody, and let's say we unpack their kitchen, we will put a sticky note on every single cabinet and drawer and let them know what is in there. So they just moved into the house. That it's a new space and it takes getting used to, and
Yeah.
somebody else put all their stuff away. So it makes it very easy for them to find things. That can also be helpful in your own home, as silly as it may sound. If you're trying to designate spaces for things because you have these drop zones and these piles accumulating here and there, when you take inventory of what's in those piles and you're like, okay, once everything has a home, it's easy to maintain those spaces, but where is the home? So your reaccumulation in your junk drawer is pens. So maybe this is not the right place for you to store office supplies. This turns into kitchen gadgets. It has your thermometers and basting
Yeah.
brushes and like items in it. And then the pens go into office supplies, and you have one pen on the top of your fridge or something in case you need to make a note by the phone. But when you start trying to figure out what works best for things in your own home, because we don't always know. And a lot of times we move into a new place too, and we're like, okay, this all fit perfectly in my last place, and now I don't know where to put anything. You could even temporarily just put little sticky notes and be like, office supplies go here, and my kitchen gadgets go in this drawer, and my silverware goes in this drawer, and start trying to map out your own house. And then you'll see what's left. Like, okay, I have homes for everything, but I have this big pile of pens still. Where did I get all of these pens?
Yeah. Yeah, right away I'm going to move those pens. I love the sticky note idea. I find that sometimes I stick them on somewhere and then they fall down. I don't know.
We put blue painter's tape on the back,
Oh.
or you could use even Scotch tape. It's just the same. If you're going to do it on delicate furniture, there is specific delicate furniture tape you can use, and you can still put a sticky note on that furniture. It's not cheap, but it is an option.
Thank you. I will do that. Yeah.
And you don't even necessarily have to move all of the places to where you're putting the notes. If you just look at the things that tend to have no place to go,
Yeah.
and like, what if I put that here, pop a sticky note? What if I put that here, pop a sticky note, and then live with it a little bit and see where you tend to navigate to go find those items. So if you're storing your pens in the kitchen drawer, but you realize you're always trying to make notes when you're at your nightstand, maybe your nightstand is the place for your office supplies if you don't have an office or someplace you sit
Yeah.
down, right?
And I think sometimes the size and configuration of the drawer or the shelf changes where I put stuff. And I
Mhm.
wanted like everything to do with garlic in one place in one of my kitchen drawers.
Mhm.
I've got different little tools for it, but one of them didn't fit. So then I put it across the way. So
That is a problem in every house in America, just so you know. It is not unique to you or your kitchen. Every time we unpack a kitchen, and I have unpacked many a kitchen with Leilani, and we'll always have that one thing, and we look at each other at the end like,
that's right.
what am I supposed to do with this? This does not fit where it's supposed to go, and I'm not redoing the whole entire kitchen to accommodate a garlic roaster. And you make do. Like sometimes it's not perfect and one thing is a little bit out of place, but when things are generally grouped like with like in an order, it's still more easy to find things.
Yeah. I'm going to play with that. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, go ahead.
I'm just thinking about junk drawers. People who look for silverware in my kitchen inevitably think they're in the wrong drawer and keep moving because the front of it, as I'm trying to use every bit of space I have, has Scotch tape and X-Acto knives and I'm not even sure what else. Painter's tape and markers that you use, and they're all things that I use there. But I haven't found a good way to organize them. There's just this space in front of the silverware drawer, and I thought, okay, really, they belong somewhere else. And I could maybe think of something else that goes there. But then there is a junk drawer. I moved into a space that had been my mother's. She didn't live here. She lived downstairs with her sweetie pie, but her stuff was all here. And I keep thinking the junk drawer that is absolutely chock full, mostly of things she had there. I started to go through it when I first moved in and thought, well, some of this looks useful. I'm going to have to do this some other time. And I'm finding that that drawer feels like a set of landmines to me. That I know if I pull it out and try to clear out what I wouldn't have put in, each thing that was my mother's is going to be have an emotional impact.
Yeah.
And this is sort of, I've been thinking, what is it that's hanging me up here? And that's it. And partly, I've been going through, paper is usually my main bugaboo. And I've come across some lovely landmines in that. I mean, good emotion, but emotion. And some of it, hard emotion. Notes I made leading up to a divorce about what was going wrong. That, so I don't have a lot of excess energy because I need to keep working through the papers, and I know that I want to keep some of the things there. Some of the difficult ones I may put in one box and label it for my daughter, saying, enter at your own risk, but dump if you need to, But I'm just been thinking about that drawer of my mother's junk drawer. So I feel as if I'm too close to it, that there's probably a really great way to approach this that I'm just too close to think about.
Yeah, I have so many things to say on this. Let me see if I can keep them all in order. Number one, it does not matter where people go looking for silverware in your house. If your tape and your markers are where you use them, leave them there. If they're bothering you, that is a different conversation. Maybe you get a small bin and tuck them in the cabinet under that drawer. If it is not bothering you, that's their problem, not yours. You need to find your silverware and know where your things are. As far as the emotional stuff, there, in my opinion, you probably don't know me as well as some people in the room might know me. I'm very blunt. I don't sugarcoat things. When it comes to what you're talking about and, like the landmines, I don't think there's any way around it, and I don't necessarily think it ever goes away either. I will, go and get something out of my one little filing cabinet and see my mom's handwritten note that she left me. And that's the end of the day. And I do nothing else. And you know what? That's okay. The landmines are there. They're gonna hit, they're gonna blow up, we're gonna cry, and it's okay. I think avoiding it probably isn't the greatest idea because then it just sits there and it sits there and you're thinking about it, right? Because you're talking about it right now. So maybe set really gentle goals for yourself, maybe once every 2 months, go in there and pick one thing out or spend 10 minutes and see what comes out and go through it. And sometimes you'll hit things that you want to read that you're not ready to read. So maybe have a couple of small boxes, like you said, one for your daughter, like enter at your own risk, one that's for yourself, like this is for me to read later or to be reviewed later. And then you can have another one like this can be shred. No, I don't need this anymore, and just kind of slowly chip away at it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way, especially when it comes to the loss of your mother. It's hard. It's terrible. It takes a really long time to even feel a little bit better. And I think the only thing as a rule I could give you is to be kind to yourself and be gentle with yourself and do it at your own pace.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all helpful, actually.
And Lonnie, you want to take a peek in the chat for me? Make sure there's no other questions.
We do not have any questions at the moment.
Okay. Anybody
Says
who left
you're a
comments?
wise counselor as well as an organizer.
Oh. Yeah, I cannot read at the moment, even with my glasses on, so I will read all of the comments later. We're in our last few minutes. It is the last session of the year. So just a couple things. One, I want to let you all know that next year we're going to focus on sustainability. And we'll still in some way kind of go room by room with different types of tips like food prep tips and reducing bathroom waste and things like that. So it's going to be really fun. I did mention it will probably be a different date at the same time. So look for your email. If you're not on our newsletter, make sure that you sign up so that you get notifications of the changes and the topics. It's been a really great year. And it has been wonderful to spend it with many of you and some of you that have been to many of the ASU organizers this year that are not there now and watching the recording. We appreciate you. And I hope that you all know I mean it when I say that you can reach out to me at any time for any reason, resource, question, support, jess@bigrocks.com. Very easy to remember. You can call the main line, dial by extension, get me that way. You can text and get me that way. I'm here, whatever you need. Other than that, we're about out of time. I hope everybody has a wonderful end of the year and a wonderful holiday season, whatever holiday you may celebrate. And we will see y'all in 2026.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Take it easy,
Thanks for a
everybody.
great year.
Thank you.
Thank you.